Israel has faced ceaseless attacks since November 29th, 1947, since May 14th, 1948. And time again, Israel has accepted a two-state solution, but the radical Islamic portion of the Muslim Arab community will not tolerate the existence of the Jewish state of Israel. Hey friends, Bishop Robert here in Jerusalem on location with this week's Israel Frontline update. Thank you for tuning in. We come to you, we try to come every week, and we bring up-to-the-minute, up-to-date information from a biblical perspective on what is happening in Jerusalem, Israel, and the greater Middle East. You can hit the like and the subscribe button to keep in touch with this perspective. So let's start out this week on October the 28th, just a few days ago. Pope Leo publicly denounced anti-Semitism. Pope Leo reaffirmed the Catholic Church's stance against anti-Semitism during his speech at the ceremony commemorating 60 years of the Catholic Church's declaration of relations with the Jewish people. Of course, this was called Nostra Aetate. This came out of the last Vatican Council, and it was a major change for the Catholic Church. While there is still a lot of work to be done within Jewish Catholic dialogue, nevertheless, it is a welcome announcement from Pope Leo. My prayer is that evangelical leaders around America and around the world will do the same. Whatever your political perspective is on Israel, Jewish people should be free to live without threat, without intimidation, without attack, wherever they are in the world. You know, it has been amazing to me to see we have this massive war going on right now between Russia and Ukraine. Millions upon millions of American dollars have gone to Ukraine. I don't see anywhere in America, I don't see Russian Orthodox churches being attacked. I don't see Russian businesses being attacked. I don't see Russian Americans walking in fear for their safety. And yet, Jewish Americans increasingly are unsafe in America because people are upset about the war that is going on or has gone on here in the Middle East. Someone asked me the other day about anti-Semitism, and they reminded us of Natan Sheransky, who I've had the privilege of meeting on several occasions. Natan Sheransky defined anti-Semitism as the 3 Ds. Demonization, in other words, everything Israel or the Jewish people does is wrong. And not only is it wrong, but it is fantastically and exorbitantly wrong. The Jews control the media. The Jews control. These kind of wild statements that have no basis in fact. So the demonization of the Jews, the delegitimization of the state of Israel, saying that Israel doesn't have a right to exist, but the historic right of the Jewish people to their ancestral homeland, which was voted on in view of all the nations of the earth at the UN, November 29th, 1947. A two-state solution was decided, and Israel agreed. Israel agreed, and Israel was immediately attacked. And that attack, my friends, basically, if you want the truth, has not stopped for 70 years. That's the truth of it. Every 2, 3, 4 years, there's a break. Israel's enemies regroup, they rearm, and then they attack again. Israel has faced ceaseless attacks since November 29th, 1947, since May 14th, 1948. And time again, Israel has accepted a two-state solution, but the radical Islamic portion of the Muslim Arab community will not tolerate the existence of the Jewish state of Israel. That is the truth of what we're fighting for. And this is what spills over into anti-Semitism. Let me finish the 3 Ds. The first is demonization. Number 2 is delegitimization. And number 3 is a double standard. So we have one standard for the nations of the world, but another standard when it comes to Israel. These are the 3 Ds of anti-Semitism. And so we are grateful that Pope Leo has publicly again denounced anti-Semitism. Another person denouncing anti-Semitism in the same week, on October the 30th, U.S. Senator Ted Cruz of Texas is warning Christians of the growing cancer of anti-Semitism on the right in the conservative movement. Cruz stated, "I'm here to tell you that in the last 6 months, I have seen anti-Semitism rising on the right in a way that I have never seen in my whole life." And then Senator Cruz said this. He said, "The church is asleep right now." I hope that you're not asleep. I hope you're attending a church that is not asleep. I hope that you are a pastor or have a pastor who is not asleep. And I hope one of the ways that you're going to demonstrate that you're awake is participating in Solidarity Sunday. Go to solidaritysunday.com and be a part of the awakened churches in America and around the world who are taking a stand against anti-Semitism and taking a stand for Israel. Moving now here to Israel, some news. Last week, there was a massive ultra-Orthodox protest, which is underscoring or demonstrating Israel's increasing religious versus secular divide. Now, even that phrase is very poorly worded. Why? Because very few Israelis are actually secular in the sense that we would say secular in America. The vast majority of Israelis will fast in commemoration of Yom Kippur. The vast majority of Israelis will honor the Sabbath, honor Shabbat. They will light the candles. They will pray the prayers. They will have bar mitzvahs and bat mitzvahs for their children. They will celebrate all the religious holidays. A secular Israeli here is very different than you would say, oh no, that person is completely secular or agnostic in the States. There is a very high cultural belief in God and a very high cultural acknowledgement of belief in God within Israeli society as a whole. But when we say secular versus religious, we're talking about the ultra-religious, the ultra-Orthodox. You've seen, for example, the black hats. Well, this is becoming an ongoing problem within Israeli society because today the ultra-Orthodox comprise over 10% of Israeli society. So this is a large portion of Israeli society, and it is a significantly growing proportion. Why? The ultra-Orthodox have huge families. So the ultra-Orthodox here in Israel have extremely large families, but a secular family might have 2, 3, 4 children. So demographically, the shift is happening here. Now, how does that tie in to current events here? Well, Bibi Netanyahu, his coalition government is being held together because the 2 ultra-Orthodox parties currently are a part of that coalition. If they were not with Bibi, his government would collapse. But the ultra-Orthodox parties refuse to serve in the military. And you know that military service in Israel is compulsory, it's mandatory. The young men serve 3 years, the young women serve 2 years. And so there is very significant anger from the rest of the nation that their young people, their sons and daughters, go into the military, and the Ultra-Orthodox do not. And yet the Ultra-Orthodox are dogmatic because they say their mindset is that they spend their time praying and learning Torah, and that it is their spiritual service that is protecting the land spiritually. And so this is a very, very deep divide here in the nation. And the reason it has huge political consequences is because Bibi's government is ground zero for this fight, because this smaller portion of the two ultra-Orthodox parties, if they leave, the government will collapse. But the greater majority of Bibi's government is not in agreement with the Ultra-Orthodox not having to serve in the military. So there's great, extraordinary infighting within Bibi's own government. So it is something to keep your eye on, because the Netanyahu government is very honestly in a very tenuous state. But as I travel all across this nation and I ask the question, who will follow Bibi Netanyahu? Always I get the exact same answer. It's this: they say, there's no one who can fill his shoes. They don't necessarily like the fact that Bibi has held on as long as he has. The war will never be over until the Prince of Peace brings peace. But this current war is definitely subsided to an extraordinary degree. And so there's a sense that Bibi is necessary during wartime, necessary during crisis. But he's been in government for a very long time. But when you ask the average Israeli, who has the skill, who has the knowledge, the stamina to take Bibi's place, they fumble for an answer. And I'm telling you, I've asked at least 100 Israelis. And I would say probably all 100 have given that exact same answer. I'll press them, and then finally they'll give me 2 or 3 names, but they'll say they're nowhere near the leader that Bibi is. So he's a figure who has earned his place in history, love him or hate him here, but there is going to be a massive crisis of leadership when his time is over. And so we will see what happens. Finally, and with this we will close, keep your eye on the northern border, because the tensions in Lebanon are increasing. We've seen that even while we're here on this trip. Hezbollah has an army that is almost the same size as the Lebanese army. Now, if you can imagine that in America, think of that in American terms. So Lebanon has its army, and Lebanon does not want war with Israel. Lebanon has been torn apart. I have incredible Lebanese friends in Western New York. The Lebanese immigrants are heartbroken over what has happened in Lebanon. They love Israel. These are Arabs. They love Israel. They want peace with Israel. But Hezbollah, which is backed by Iran and Qatar, has a militia of almost 45,000 soldiers just to the north. And it's becoming an increasing problem that Israel is going to have to deal with. We'll talk more about that in the next edition of Israel Frontline Report.